All right. Well, hello, everyone. Well, I see one person watching. Whoever watches this live stream, hello there. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Yusuf Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76, my original channel. First of all, please like this stream, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. What's going on, AB Media? Today is September 2nd, 2021, and this is my first stream on this channel after taking a bit of a break in August. If any of you have seen my community tab, you know that I went out west to the Arizona desert. My best friend lives out there, and I took a really pretty picture of the night sky, because when you fly west to east, you can see nighttime coming, because the Earth is rotating towards the west, and you're flying into the east, so you could see night coming. It's really, really cool. So anyway, so I took a break, and before the break I was a little tired just from everything, but also as I had done some thinking about my content and my content direction, I had experimented with a lot of things. I had done a lot of things with this channel. As you know, I have a sports channel and a science channel and an entertainment and media channel. So, the question remained, what do you do with this channel? I'd had some Black Manosphere discussions here, but I think I needed to rethink what my lane is and what I want to talk about here, because there are, people who specialize in certain things, and there are things being talked about every day, and I had to rethink what my purpose for coming to YouTube was, and, how can I add the most value? So I think a group of us kind of came to the discussion that we want to have more talks and more discourse about building, about money, about wealth building, those kinds of things, in addition to other education related topics, and in addition to the things I discuss on my other channels. But so as I'm coming back and going forward, I came to YouTube as a writer, and you guys are going to see that now more than ever. But also I want to focus on building and money and those kinds of things. So AB Media says, what's good, doctor? And then he also says, nice. Did you see the Grand Canyon? No, I did not. I went up to Sedona, though, which is north of Phoenix. I think I'll say that it's partway between, or maybe halfway between Phoenix and the Grand Canyon. And I actually cut that part of the trip short, because I stayed here in the DMV an extra day for something. But had I gone up and spent all 3 nights in Sedona, I would have gone to see the Grand Canyon. So I will have to go back to see the Grand Canyon, because I've never been to the Grand Canyon. So, and I was this close. But if you guys have never been, I would recommend going to Sedona, seeing the Red Rocks, going on a bit of a hike. The weather in Sedona is different than it is in Phoenix, because Phoenix sits in a valley and Sedona is at 4,000 feet. So I would recommend that. And so I have to go back and see the Grand Canyon. So that's kind of where the direction is going. More building, more education related topics, panels when they're relevant. But I have some guests who are going to join me over on my science channel. I'm going to show you guys that in a second, because I'm 60 subs away from 1,000 on my science channel. Brother X Me and Brother X have been in talks about collaborating on my science channel. He's a mechanical engineer. So really soon over on my science channel, I'm going to interview Brother Xavier. And we're going to talk about mechanical engineering and what those guys do. And we're going to talk about the science of it. And here on this channel, I have a bunch of people that I want to come, but there's someone in particular who has agreed to come. And he talks about numerous things. Business is one of them. Rising and transforming is another one. Becoming your best self is another one. And I'll just leave you this hint. He goes by the nickname the Field Master. So look for a discussion here between me and the Field Master sometime soon in the near future. And I'm really excited about that because I enjoy his content and I've been watching him for a while. So future directions. So before I jump in, this is going to be a money related live stream. But before I jump in, I only plan to talk for about an hour or so because I want to go outside and get some exercise. I didn't get to do that last night. This is the kickoff week for Michigan football, so I'm repping the colors. Got the flag in the background, so I did a stream on my sports channel last night. So I'm only going to talk for about an hour. I'm going to read you 2 things from my blog, but before I get to that, if you're watching live and if you're watching on the playback, I just mentioned my science channel, Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. I'm going to show that right now. If you're unsubscribed, it will be very, very helpful to me if you could go and subscribe over there because I'm sitting right at 940 subs. And, when you get to 1,000, you monetize your channel. YouTube allows you to monetize it with the super chat and you could take part in the AdSense. But I think the most important thing to me is the community tab. I can share a lot more information over there, articles, pictures, diagrams, if I have the community tab. And as you know, YouTube is highly policing what people are talking about on this platform. What's going on, Kareem? Kareem Austin says, "Good evening, gentlemen." He's got the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar avatar. YouTube is highly policing what gets talked about on their platform. And they got Dr. Boyce Watkins the other day. Dr. Boyce Watkins was interviewing a female scientist, an ADOS, FBA, whatever you want to call it, female scientist, regarding the world event, that's what I call it, and treatments for the world event. And Boyce said that within a short period of time of him finishing that stream, YouTube took it down. So I'm saying that to say that they're policing what we talk about. And with a community tab, you have a little bit more agility because you can share links, you can share articles, and you can share things that I think you might not be able to share orally. So I'm going to stop there. So this is my science channel. I'm at 940 subs. I need 60 more to get to 1,000. And me and Brother X are going to talk in a week or so about mechanical engineering and his career and his business in mechanical engineering. So if you haven't subbed, please go over there and sub. The link, I'll drop the link in the chat right now. This is for people who are watching live and for those of you watching on the playback. Yeah, AB, they whatever it is, he and that scientist said they took it down. And it's not funny, but I know what that feels like because they took one of my videos down and they took me down midstream at one point for talking about something else that I guess they didn't, something that was seen as being harmful and violating community guidelines. But that's neither here nor there. My science channel is right there in the chat. The super chat is live if you want to say something with a donation. Also, my Cash App and PayPal are below the stream as well. Okay, that's my science channel. So many of you know, I've said this several times on this channel, that my first intent for coming to YouTube was as a writer, was to build an audience. And I've read things for my blogging platform, my first blogging platform, and I'm going to read things today for my first blogging platform. But I never really told you guys. I told you guys I was working on a book, but I haven't shown you anything yet. So I'm about to show you something right now. It's been a long process working on this book. It's a two-parter, and I just finished like the third or fourth revision, and now I'm thinking about the further steps, how to publish it, how to promote it. But I haven't shown anything. And so my second blogging platform, which is just for literary writing, I created a page. So I'm going to show you guys the page. You guys, I haven't shown this on Facebook yet. I've been playing around with the pictures and the content. So you guys watching right now will be the first ones to see this. So hold on. Thank you, Oliver the Gray, for the super sticker. Appreciate that. Share screen. Yeah. So guys, this is my blogging, my literary blogging platform, Big Words Authors. I've expressed to you guys that I created this platform for myself to launch my book, but also if there are other aspiring writers out there, I will publish your stuff up. A donation would be nice because it takes time and effort to publish something, and also the platform costs. But I wanted to use this platform to launch my own project. So this is the name of the project. It's called The Engineers, a Western New York basketball story. You can see the social shares are at 0 because this is hot off the presses. And also Facebook, I'm going to put on my AV Media hat right now. Facebook just changed its API, its application program interface. So all the social media data is not going over to Social Warfare, which is the plugin I use for my social media buttons. But this is it. This is the page. This tells you what the story is about, how I came up with it, the background, and everything. So the Engineers, a Western New York basketball story. I'm just going to scroll through it pretty quickly. There's a description. There are quotes all over the place. That's one of our the Engineers was my high school basketball team. I was on that team. It taught me a lot about life, success, and failure. That's one of our old jerseys from the early 1990s, made by Champion. There's me. That's a photo. That's from a photo shoot. Oh my goodness. Hold on a second. I hope this doesn't disrupt the stream. Hold on. All right. What happened was my 3 antennas showed up, which reminded me that I was using a wireless signal, and StreamYard broadcasts to YouTube. So if the signal gets choppy, it's going to look choppy on YouTube. And I had to unplug my hard connection earlier today for some reason. And I just got reminded to plug the cable back in. So, okay. Anyway, so that's me. That's a photo shoot from a photo shoot I took for this site. This tells you the story. That's Delaware Park in Buffalo. That was our main hub for playing basketball. A lot of big time ball players played there a little bit. Christian Laettner, Cliff Robinson, Trevor Ruffin, all those guys. This is a breakdown of what the story is about. It's a two-parter. Part one. This talks about part one. This talks about part two. That's my first varsity basketball coach, Dr. Ken Jones. He passed away. Those are some of his quotes, some words about him. And then these are pieces that I published starting years ago associated with the story. So this, if you guys have heard me talk about this, but if you want to read something about it, the link is in the description box below. And then also, I'm also creating more promotional pieces surrounding this book project. And I just published one this week, which is also fresh off the presses. I'm going to show it to you. It's in the description box below. This piece is about a ball player named Kevin Roberson. Kevin Roberson attended my same high school, and actually, he's a part of the story. And I won the Kevin Roberson Award my senior year of high school. So this is an essay about him and what he meant to my story and other guys who played on the basketball team before me. So this is in the description box below. So if you want to take a look, all that is down there. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the topic for this live stream. And if you read this piece, guys, I don't think you can leave a comment under the page I just showed, but this is an actual story. And there's a comment box below where you can leave a comment or a reflection or something, whether or not you like this essay, whether or not you didn't like it, if you have a question. If you read that, please go ahead and leave a comment because everything is about engagement. All right. So let's jump in. So, money messages, building, wealth creation. Today we're going to talk about the law of compounding interest. So where did this discussion come from? This discussion, I actually wrote this a couple of years ago, but when I was taking my break, someone inspired me to do this one as my first live stream back. And let's call her Jenny. Let's call her Jenny. Jenny is I wouldn't call Jenny a friend, but I will call Jenny an acquaintance. That's something my dad always says, an acquaintance. He's an acquaintance. She's an acquaintance. An acquaintance is not a friend. It's someone you just know, maybe from around the way. Maybe it's someone you went to school with. But Jenny is an acquaintance. And me and Jenny had lunch when I was in Buffalo. It was very, very random. Jenny is a lawyer, also from the University of Michigan, so not too shabby. But what happened was Jenny, money is something that I've always been interested in. And I was writing before I came to YouTube. And so Jenny told me, we're Facebook friends. And so Jenny told me one time when I ran into her in another city, she said, I don't like your financial messages. And she said, you don't want to hear, what I have to say about your financial messages. And I said, well, no, come on, tell me what it is you have to say. But the gist of it is that I was writing about financial literacy. I was writing about saving money. I was writing about budgeting. I was writing about getting out of debt. And should I mention it? I guess Jenny would be a 92 octane. But Jenny prides herself in traveling, taking pictures, having the experiences, and those kinds of things. So for people like that, hearing someone talk about saving money, budgeting money, being wise with your money, it's almost sacrilegious. So I imagine that's where she was coming from with that. Who was this guy telling me that I should save money? Who was this guy telling me, writing about money, writing about saving money, writing about getting out of debt? Who is this guy? Who is he? Who does he think he is? So I think that's where she was going with that. So over lunch, I told Jenny, I said, look, I said, yeah, I am financially responsible. A good number of my working years were spent digging out of the hole from college and other mistakes in the past, and it's taken some time. So no, I haven't traveled around the world. I haven't filled up a passport with stamps, but I just got my passport renewed, and so I do intend to go somewhere. Okay, we got Sheed in the house. We here. What's going on, Sheed? Sheed, I mentioned you earlier about being part of the group who wants to have more discussions about building. So thank you for coming through. And Chris is here. Hi, Chris. Thank you for coming through. And thank you for stopping through my Michigan football live stream last night. I was surprised to see you, number one, and I was surprised that you hung out for as long as you did. And thank you for your generous donation last night. I really appreciate it. Really good to see you, as always. So I told Jenny, I said, so I just got my passport renewed, so I do intend to go somewhere. And she kind of gave me a sneak diss, and she said, well, where's Anwar going to go on his dollar budget? Now, in the past, when someone would have levied a sneak diss against me like that, I would have felt my heart tense up, and I would have felt the need to engage with them. But I just kept eating my food. I looked up at her and I smiled and I said, okay, fine. That's fine. Go ahead. Get your joke in. And then I went ahead and I posted the blog post I'm about to read to you guys on my community tab that day. And, Rael saw it and he said, don't worry about that. People are going to say things like that and get those things off to try to distract you. But just keep doing what you're doing and you'll get the last laugh. So shout out to Rael. He basically said that. So that's when I said, okay, well, a group of us are interested in getting more messages out about building, about wealth building, wealth creation, and just more productive topics. So I'm going to start with the law of compounding interest. Kareem Austin said, dollar budget. Yikes. Yeah. So she got one off, but that's okay. It didn't bother me. So I'm going to read to you guys. I actually have two. I'm going to read my piece on the law of compounding interest, and I'm going to stop at certain junctures and ad lib a little bit. And then I'm going to read another piece from one of my customers because, as you know, as a blogger, I am in business. I have an LLC, and part of my business is publishing content from customers via SEO, search engine optimization. So I get a lot of content from collaborators. But I'm going to read this one. I wrote this one. I just read it this morning. I'm kind of proud of it. So here we go. Let me enable the screen share. And all of these links are below in the description box in case you want to read them yourself. And at some point, I do plan to talk about how I started my business and how I got into the business of SEO. It was actually by accident. Just like a lot of things that I do by accident. Okay. So this piece is entitled A Look at the Law of Compounding Interest and Why You Should Care. I told Alonzo, the all-star advisor, that I was doing this, so he might stop through. I'm sure he probably has some words. He has some words to say about this. I'm sure she does as well, because this impacts, I think this impacts the insurance world as well. It impacts stock market investing. It impacts retirement savings. It impacts everything. Endowments at schools. It impacts everything. Let's see. Chris says, I have 5 brothers and 2 nephews. LOL. Football is a big thing. My baby brother is attending LSU next year and will be playing there. So look out. Wow. That's huge. Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome that your baby brother is going to play. That's going to be an amazing experience. And it's also, as a man, it's also cool when you meet a woman who can sit down and watch a football game with you. So that's cool. Okay, so a look at the law of compounding interest and why you should care. So I put this excerpt here. It says, compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. This was a popular one. It got 119 likes on Facebook. If you guys read this, please give it a like. Once again, Facebook changed their API settings, so the metadata isn't going over right now, but I think once everything gets fixed, everything will update. Hopefully it will. That's the picture of chapter 8. I'm going to show you guys this book in a second, but that's a picture of Albert Einstein. And this story, this essay, this blog post reads as follows. Note, like my net worth piece, the subject matter of this blog post is not new. It has been known for years by those who have learned about it in their families, learned about its concept in business school, or have discovered it on their own. It's a discussion from my personal perspective, which I think is worth visiting. Also, while this is a money topic, I'm discussing it from a scholarly perspective. I'm not rendering financial advice where I'm telling readers what they should do. In the spirit of the first principle of my blog, Creating Ecosystems of Success, I'm simply introducing a concept and discussing why it's important for the lay person so they can make their own life choices. So guys, again, yeah, I'm not a financial professional. I'm not rendering financial advice. I'm introducing all of this from a scholarly, educational perspective. So to the YouTube algorithm, this is for educational purposes only. So I see Extended Clips is here. What's going on, Extended Clips? Good afternoon, family. He says, if you're new coming in, please click the like, hit the like. If you're unsubbed, please subscribe to the channel. I think on this channel, I'm 10 away from 1,500. All right. So guys, this book right here, that image right there, this is the book right here. How to Turn $100 into $1 million. This was recommended to me by my mentor, or at least a mentor who mentors me on financial topics. We were at his place during a session. He has a whole bookcase of books, of financial books. And he pulled this one out one day when I was over there. He said, have you read this? And I was like, it looks like a children's book. And he said, do you know everything that's in this children's book? With a stern look, just like that. Do you know? And I said, no. And he said, all right. I think this is the copy that he gave me. And even though this is a children's book, this is a really good introductory book to finances for adults. I read through it pretty quickly. There are lots of pictures and examples in here. But if you don't have a copy of this, I would go on Amazon and get a copy of it. And I even started passing out copies to the young people in my circle because I wish that I had gotten this information when I was a preteen and a teen. And that underscores one of the main teachings of Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is finding mentors who are knowledgeable in money and who can teach you. So finding mentors is really, really important. Another book I'd recommend, my mentor got me this for Christmas. He got his proteges this a couple years ago. The Richest Man in Babylon. This is actually referenced in Rich Dad Poor Dad. And this actually folds into this blog post as well, the law of compounding interest. One of the keys to becoming rich, according to this book, is to have your money have children and to have your money's children have children, and then your money's children to have children. So figuring out how to get your money to expand on its own. Okay, here we go. Because we're getting our PhDs and we're in school for so long, we won't start making our money until much later. My lab mate and senior graduate student Damon adamantly said, when you save and invest your money, it doubles about every 10 years. And we're missing out on the doubling cycles. The classmates I attended Colgate University with, who've already gotten out and started working, are already seeing their money double. To start this off with some humor, coming from the east side of Buffalo, anyone named Damon I'd ever met up to that point was Black. But this Damon was of Greek descent. Damon was a very smart, opinionated, and short-tempered guy. He was also knowledgeable on numerous topics, current events, politics, and economics. And I loved talking with him while in our research lab, as I always learned something. So Damon, he was Greek. He went to Colgate University. Damon was conservative. So I enjoyed just talking to him and hearing his passionate conservative ideas, some of the things I had never heard before. And yeah, so some of the things I'd never heard before. But Damon gave me, well, let me keep reading. Okay. Damon introduced me to one of my current heroes, Dr. Thomas Sowell, and let me borrow his copy of Inside American Education, which Dr. Sowell wrote. Okay, so that right there is controversial because there are numerous people in this space who don't like Dr. Thomas Sowell. But I've seen some value in his writings. So I didn't know it, but that day while our pharmacology experiments ran, Damon gave me my first ever lesson on the law of compounding interest. I was in my late 20s, and similar to my learning about the net worth and the matching contribution concepts, it was late in the game, but still much earlier than many people learned about it. So let's talk about the law of compounding interest and why we should all care. As opposed to trying to piece together an explanation of compounding interest myself, I'm going to simply going to reference the book, How to Turn $100 into $1 Million, which I refer to in my post entitled Challenging Misconceptions and Stereotypes in Class, Household Income, Wealth, and Privilege. In that story, I talked about how my mentor challenged me to read what appeared to be a children's book. While it is written for children, the book contains lots of valuable information that many adults don't have a handle on, even those in their 40s and beyond. Since reading the book, I've consequently given copies to my younger cousins and other youngsters in my circle to give them the chances I didn't have. You should too. So a couple of years ago, when I was home in Buffalo, my mother did tell me that many of her peers, my mother's a boomer, she told me that a lot of her peers were hurting and a lot of people did not adequately prepare for their retirement. So again, this is important on several fronts. And there are a lot of people out there who have not prepared for the retirement. And there are people right now who are not preparing for their retirement. And another very popular content creator whose name I won't mention actually has mentioned this in his live streams to the callers in. I see Alonzo has entered the building. What's going on, Alonzo? Giagami says, greetings to Dr. Dunbar and all. Thank you. If you guys are new coming in, please hit the like. The super chat is live. If you want to make a donation, my Cash App is below. Before discussing the law of compounding interest, I'm going to jump ahead to chapter 9. I'm going to hold this book up again. Investing, because for the sake of this post, it needs to be introduced first. According to chapter 9, investing is defined as putting your money into something that can potentially make you more money. There are likewise lots of investment classes out there, including stocks, real estate, and businesses of all kinds. Coincidentally, the same buddy I discussed in my post entitled, "We Should Have Bought Facebook and Bitcoin Stock," recently approached all of us looking for investors because he wants to start his own Amazon store, a speculative investment. When you think about the law of compounding interest, though, you want to think about putting your money in places where it will steadily appreciate over time. Someplace safe where you'd place your retirement savings, for example. Two important concepts to understand here are principal and interest. Financially, Chapter 8 assumes readers understand the meanings of principal and interest in the context of getting a return on investment or an ROI, as opposed to the borrowing context where you're paying someone else interest on a loan. The chapter quickly starts discussing how interest can steadily build your principal from year to year. I know Alonzo's getting excited hearing about this. These vocabulary words. By the way, in Rich Dad Poor Dad, one of the things Robert says is you don't necessarily have to be an expert on these things, but it's important to know the vocabulary words, and it's important to know the questions to ask. So, Alonzo is an expert, but you need to know what questions to ask, and you need to know what he's talking about when he's talking about insurance and ROIs and those kinds of things. So if, for example, you have $100 and it's invested in something at a 5% interest rate after 1 year, you'll have earned $5. So your total principal at the start of year 2 will now be $105. Guys, I made up a nice slide to show this. Give me a second. I'll cue it up. So this is, think hypothetically. So right there, YouTube, this is for teaching purposes only. This is for educational purposes only. So there you have $100. You multiply times 5%, you get 5. Let's see. If you keep that $105 principal invested, it will earn 5% on that amount and not the original $100. So your new total after year 2 will be $110.25. That's depicted there. So the $105, you multiply that by 5%, you get $5.25, then you add that, and then you get $110.25. Okay. This is just an example, and this is just the starting principal of $100. But what if you started with a greater principal, let's say $2,000, and you steadily added more money to it every month for 10 to 20 years? For retirement purposes, the ideal scenario is to be invested for 40 years, allowing one to retire at age 65. Ideally, the person should have started investing / compounding at age 25. However, getting started at any age is the key. The second aspect of the law of compounding interest discussed in the book is the rule of 72 on page 84. The rule of 72 is a calculation which allows investors to determine how long it will take for their money to double based upon a given interest rate. Again, YouTube, this is for teaching purposes only. To determine this number, you simply divide 72 by the interest rate, and the interest rate that you expect to earn over time. The higher the expected rate of return, the less amount of time it takes to reach your goal. For example, if you divide 72 by an interest rate of 10%, it would take 7.2 years for your money to double. If you divide 72 by an interest rate of 2%, the time would be 36 years. Hence the importance of looking for the most competitive rate of return relative to your personal risk tolerance when looking for investments. Guess what, guys? I made up a slide just for that as well. Hold on. So that's depicted here. As you can see, if you divide that 72 by 2%, that's going to take 36 years for your money to double. If you divide that 72 by 6%, it'll take 12 years. So the time comes down. And if you get a whopping 10% interest rate, it'll take 7.2 years. Okay. In theory, the key is having the money, and then identifying a vehicle or a deal with that rate of return. I don't think I acknowledged Gigami for this super chat. Gigami, thank you for the $5 super chat. Atticus now says, big discussion 76, please do not forget to factor in inflation. Oh yeah, we're going through this right now. Very, very important. Yep. Okay, Atticus, I'm going to finish reading. I see you're commenting down there. Okay. I want to get through because I want to go outside and get some exercise in. The chapter cites 2 more examples which highlight the importance of continuing to add to your principal, and then the importance of time. The example on page 86 shows the difference in returns when 2 siblings both start with a $5,000 investment at the same age at an interest rate of 8%. Okay. One sibling continues to contribute to her account up to age 50. That is $1,000 every year, and arrives at 50 years of age with $750,000. The other doesn't contribute anything further and arrives at 50 years of age with a total of $200,000. So the one sibling kept putting money in and got to 50 years of age with more. The other sibling didn't, and that sibling got to 50 years of age with less. So that's about continuing to put new money in. Okay, we got Kareem JM from House of Atreides. Welcome, Kareem. Thank you for coming. It's always good to see you. And thank you for stopping through my Michigan football stream last night. I'm going to get the entertainment really soon, maybe even tomorrow, to review seasons 3 and 4 of Snowfall. Okay, and then we got to do Dune, Kareem. Okay, the last example, I think that goes with this picture here. The last example on page 87 gives an example of 2 people who start investing at different times in life. In this example, both subjects become millionaires by age 70 years of age. The first individual started saving $1,000 per year starting at age 15 and paid only $55,000 to reach their $1 million. The second individual started at 30 years of age and had to put in a total of $140,000 to reach their $1 million total. The take-home lesson here is that because the first person started earlier, it took them less than half the principal of the second person to reach their $1 million. So, time. Time is an important aspect when you think about the law of compounding interest, especially in the context of your retirement savings. I won't say who it is, but recently someone in my inner circle shared with me that they wished that they started their retirement savings earlier. And I'll just leave that at that. But I think that a reason people don't do this, the reason why people don't invest in insurance of any kind, they don't know. And especially from our community, people just don't know. because in my family, not blaming, my parents taught us a lot about going to work and saving money, everything else going out beyond that aggressively and more on the offensive side. I had to learn that from books and also from my mentor. So that's why people don't do it. But if you have younger people in your circle, I recommend this book, and I would recommend starting to disseminate this information so they can have a fighting chance. Assuming our money is still worth something, in the next couple of years. But that's a separate discussion. Let's see. So that's the picture there associated with the last paragraph. This guy, he's smiling because he only put $55,000 in, and she's kind of got the shocked face because she had to put $140,000 in. They both reached $1 million, but he started earlier and he put less money in. Okay. I want to thank, I already got this gentleman's. I want to thank Terrence for the $5 super chat. Great topic for discussion. Thank you, Terrence. Thank you for stopping through. Okay, I'm almost done with this one, guys, because I want to go outside while we still have daylight left. My classmate Damon's words at the start of this post underscores these last 2 points. Our peers who started working immediately after earning their bachelor's degrees were, in theory, able to start taking advantage of the law of compounding interest earlier, assuming they knew to do so. I went to a HBCU. At that time, many of my classmates in computer science and computer programming, they were able to go out right away and work. I was in the biological sciences, so I had to go to school for another 8 years before I could start working. And even when I started my federal career, I didn't understand this, so I didn't start contributing to my retirement savings right away. So not knowing is costly. If you're new coming in, please like the stream. If you're new, also, please subscribe. Let's see. Working towards our PhDs, we wouldn't be able to start the process until much later, but there were other professionals from our peer group who were getting even later starts than us due to the nature of their fields and the amounts of debt incurred during their educations. The law and medical students come to mind. Remember, guys, I told you that in the beginning, I told you Jenny was a lawyer. Well, something else that occurred to me is Jenny probably won't be finished paying off her loans for a while. So that's another reason why my money messages probably offended her. There's another piece to this, though. What about individuals who didn't go to college, the college route at all? They too would have been able to start using the law earlier in life, assuming they knew about it and followed it. So as I'll describe below, having a degree has nothing to do with using the law. So you can take advantage of the law of compounding interest as a blue-collar tradesman. You can start making your money earlier, and you can start compounding it earlier than us stiffs who went the white-collar route. Who should care about the law of compounding interest? Everyone. That goes for STEM professionals like me and Damon, blue-collar workers, swinging hammers, cooks in the kitchen, lawyers in the courtrooms, non-degreed individuals, business owners / entrepreneurs, everyone. No matter what your profession is, you only must know about the law. Start it as early as you can. Start using it. I might go back and adjust that. To start using the law and using it correctly, one must embrace 2 of the principles of my blog: the learning of financial literacy / money, and long-term thought / delayed gratification. Thus far in my writings, I've discussed the latter principle sparsely, but it's key here because to take advantage of the law of compounding interest, the individual must think long-term. This means they must be disciplined enough to live without a certain percentage of their paychecks every month. Now that's just for an employee. You can use the law as an investor as well, but the argument could be made that if you're saving in a 401k or a TSP, you're forced into being an investor already. They'll also forego or delay some short-term luxuries and indulgences for greater gains later, playing the game of chess in a way. This isn't something that's necessarily easy to do in the presence of considerable peer, societal, and in some instances, familial pressures. See my mother's day 2017 blog post to get an idea of how to lose both money and time due to personal and cultural pressures. I'll just say this about that. When I got engaged, it matters what the other person is doing or not doing with their lives and their finances. I had already started saving in my retirement account in a meaningful way. And it came out when you're dating someone and you're getting serious, things come out. It came out that my fiance at the time wasn't saving in hers. So here I am on this side building up this nest egg, and this is not to shame her or anything, but it can come out and play out the closer you get with someone. And even if you go to get and marry someone, if you're bringing assets in and they're not. So it's important to pay attention to those things. What are the real world applications for this? I'll cite two articles. The first is by Rodney Brooks of the Washington Post. I cited his article entitled 71% of Americans aren't saving enough for retirement in my post about the Tax Reform and Jobs Act. It discusses reasons why people can't take advantage of the law of compounding interest. Another piece is entitled Club Fed Millionaire Membership 23,000 and Growing by Mike Causey, which discusses the growing number of federal employees who are retiring as millionaires, most self-made. I'll say it again, the majority are self-made, meaning no one gave them anything, and they simply methodically prioritized, saved, and invested their money. So there are a lot of self-made millionaires out there, and they're doing it the boring way. They're just saving and just putting it in their retirement accounts. And a lot of federal employees are doing this. But, if you're like me, you want to figure out how to turbocharge it and make money in other ways too. There's a final context for the law, and that's giving. When you think about higher education, philanthropists and generous alumni often leave gifts to their schools of choice through endowments, many of which are vested so that they're continuously compounding and generating returns used for scholarships and operating expenses. The famous Jim Cramer runs his charitable trust, of which he is continuously thinking about how and where to safely invest his funds for charitable purposes. Lastly, consider how the lives of your relatives and your community could be changed by having a continuously growing principal and interest you can use in any fashion you see fit. Saving up for a down payment on a home, college tuition expenses, seed money for building businesses, supporting political campaigns, etc. If it sounds like an underlying theme of this post and others like it is that your financial and life success is about what you know and don't know outside of your profession, then you're correct. In an upcoming story, I'm going to discuss how I didn't understand these pieces when I first started my federal science career, and I didn't take advantage of the law of compounding interest or the federal government's matching contribution, both of which have cost me money. There were actually several personal blunders in these areas. The opening quote for this piece is from the famous physicist Albert Einstein, and it pretty much sums up the importance of the topic. Either you're getting paid or you're paying out. Compounding interest is something anyone can take advantage of, regardless of race, creed, color, sex, gender, or religion. One just must know about it and then start living by it. If they don't know about it, they must be curious enough to find out about it. Most financial literacy programs cover it in some way. There are other necessary pieces, such as budgeting, which I'll cover as well in another post. As I stated in my net worth piece, it's not something that can be worked out with your boss or even legislated by the government, though I do think schools could do a better job of teaching this information at an early age. In closing, two other principles of my blog do tie in here. They are self-accountability and self-reliance, because first, the individual must realize that no one can make them practice and incorporate this law into their lives. And secondly, it's themselves who have to do it. And with that, I hope you've learned something here about the law of compounding interest. So this is just my standard outro here. I listed out a bunch of other pieces. I'll probably do live streams on these pieces as well. But let's see. The time is at 56 minutes. I'm going to read one more. This one is really short. And then I know Alonzo probably has a few things to say about this. I'm going to keep the panel portion short because I want to go outside while we still have light left. But just humor me for about 5 more minutes. This one is short. This one is from one of my customers on my blogging platform. Thank you to all of you who are here. I know this is the after work time slot. Some folks are at the gym. Some folks are outside where I want to be right now. And you could be other places besides here. This is, again, this is from one of my customers. This is short. This one is entitled How to Create an Effective Investment Portfolio. So again, for the YouTube bots and algorithms out there, this is for teaching purposes only. This is with a scholarly educational intent. So a key focus of my blog is financial literacy / money. One of the keys to money is generating returns from your investments. In order to do that, you must understand how to create effective investment portfolios. The following contributed post is entitled How to Create an Effective Investment Portfolio. Okay. And this just, again, guys, this just covers basics. You should always be trying to grow your money as much as you can. The more you can grow your money, the less money you need to earn to pay your bills. The less money you need, to pay your bills, the more free time you have to do what you love. That's invaluable. With that in mind, here are some tips on how to create an effective investment portfolio. What is an effective investment portfolio? An effective investment portfolio, quite simply, is an investment portfolio that works for you. It can be inspired by what other people do. It should, however, indeed must be driven by your personal situation. That means your needs, wants, goals, budget, and time scale. That's important right there, that last sentence. Educating yourself. Professional financial advisors may dive deep into intricacies like GIPS performance, investment ratios, and statistical probabilities. For everybody else, however, it's usually enough to grasp the basic mechanics of the main forms of investment. Remember, I said you need to know enough vocabulary words. You need to know enough to ask the pertinent questions of individuals like Alonzo. You don't need to be an expert like him, but you need to be able to have the conversation. That should be enough to get you in the right general direction. You can then study the specific topics that interest you. There is, however, one lesson you can take away from professional financial advisors. They never beat themselves up over past mistakes. Every investor has at least one story about an asset they should have bought. I think they linked back to my piece there, my Facebook piece. If you start investing, you'll almost certainly pick up at least one yourself. Learn from your mistakes, but let it go. Maybe I'll tell you guys about one day about how I lost $1,000 on a real estate, a potential real estate deal, which $1,000 at that time, when you don't have any money, $1,000 is a lot of money. But once you start growing your assets and you have a nice healthy savings, $1,000 is not a lot of money. So understanding liquidity, that's an important vocabulary word. Liquidity basically means how easy it is to buy or sell an asset, or how much cash you have. This influences how far ahead you need to plan if you want to purchase or dispose of an investment. Tangible assets tend to be relatively illiquid. Real estate is particularly illiquid. It could take weeks, if not months, to buy or sell a property, and there are often high costs involved. Yep. Stocks, by contrast, tend to be fairly liquid. That said, there can be a lot of variation in their liquidity. It's also important to note that trading stocks also incurs transaction costs and possibly taxes as well. Generally, therefore, your aim should be to buy and hold for as long as possible rather than to buy and sell or trading. We're almost done, guys. Understanding growth versus yield. Some investors aim to buy assets with a view of selling them, or part of them when they have increased in value. Other investors aim to buy assets that generate an income, like rent or dividends. Many investors aim to do a combination of both, although not necessarily in an exact 50-50 ratio. It is, however, important to understand that in the stock market, growth comes at the expense of yield and vice versa. I'll probably be thinking about that as I'm out walking in a little bit. Essentially, a company can either use its resources to grow or give a yield to investors. With tangible assets like real estate, however, you can have both growth and yield. Okay, this is the end. Understanding risk. A standard disclaimer in investing is that you may get back less than you invested. This is true, and it's why you should only invest with money you can afford to lose. Yeah, that's part of my mantra. If you don't have it, be careful with putting your money into something. It's also why you should diversify your portfolio to spread your risk. Realistically, however, if you consistently pick solid investments, you should expect to make decent returns over time. You will, however, probably need to ride out temporary downturns. It's important to be prepared for these, both financially and mentally. All right, looks like my stream is still going. YouTube didn't take it down. Some of you guys are still here. So I'm going to drop the link in case some of you guys want to come up and say something or contribute something. And we'll rock out for another, I'll let it go another 15, 20 minutes, and then I'll wrap up because I want to go outside and walk and get some fresh air. So there is the link. Corrine from House of Tradies, thank you so much for the super chat. She says, buy yourself a cup of Starbucks. Chris says, I recently opened my two nephews' 3 and 7 custodial Roth accounts under my accounts for Christmas. My brother and sister-in-law were unaware it was even possible. I told them it's better to start early. Good for you, Chris. Yeah, that's awesome. They're lucky. They are fortunate to have an auntie like you. Let me look at YouTube to see if the link is there. Yeah, the link is there. If anyone wants to come up and say a few words, I'm going to read over your comments here. Let's see. So I read that. A senior says, oh, we got the All-Star Investor. I thought the All-Star Advisor. I'm sorry, Alonzo. What's going on, Alonzo?
How are you today, Dr. Dunbar? How's things?
How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having this stream. This is valuable information that people are definitely lucky to be in tune with. And definitely a great way to break down compound interest. The next thing, I don't want to confuse things too much, but there are multiple forms of interest. So compound interest is definitely one of the more beneficial interest rates. And an example of that would be, as Dr. Dunbar was explaining, the 5% scenario. Instead of getting 5% on that balance of $105, normally the way interest rates work today with regular bank accounts is just a percentage yield. So it just goes on the principal. So it only grows on that $100, even though you get that 105. So the beauty of what you're saying, Dr. Dunbar, is that with compound interest, you actually get the additional growth on the full balance. So you get the interest on the balance and the growth of the balance. Does that make sense?
Yes. So everyone, again, I'm gonna put this disclaimer out. I'm not a financial professional. I'm a person who has always been interested in money, and I'm disseminating this information for scholarly and educational purposes. But I will defer to someone like Alonzo for who has a greater and more intricate knowledge of the finer aspects of these things.
Well, I appreciate it.
No problem.
You've been very accurate so far.
Yeah. So Alonzo, so for the insurance, I know you're big into the insurance space. Does this impact the insurance space at all?
So yes, actually, this compound interest is the way that most cash value life insurance grows. So now, when we're talking about life insurance, we know there's multiple types. So first you have term, and then you have whole, is what most people know, but it's actually permanent. Okay, and permanent life insurance actually does accrue an interest rate. That interest rate, again, these are arbitrary numbers because it varies from company to company, but on average, the interest rate is 2%. And that compound interest grows actually in basically what's a separate account through your life insurance. So it's almost a compensatory savings account. It's a forced savings account. So you may see people talk about liquidity in savings, where you don't have immediate liquidity in a cash value life, but you have the fact that it's a forced savings and you're growing compound interest monthly on your life insurance. You can actually ask your financial professional for either your annual report or your monthly compound interest report from whatever corporation or company they represent, and they can give that information to you. It's also public information. It's just like a stock. You can look it up. But it grows at a monthly compound interest rate. So at that same scenario, if you put $100 in a life insurance policy today, what's today, September 2nd?
Mm-hmm.
By August 2nd, that $100 is worth $102. The beauty of it is the following month, you're now going to grow interest on a balance of $102, but you're also going to add an additional $100 because you're paying a monthly premium. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, the cash value obviously doesn't accrue at the whole $100, but I'm trying to give you a 10,000 foot view, if that makes sense as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah, and Alonzo, I'd love to have you come back. I know you made the rounds talking about the insurance world, but I think it would be productive to have you come over here, since I kind of want to take the channel more in that direction.
Okay.
The money direction, the building. So I'm going to show everybody something. So just going back to my friend Jenny, and I think you missed this part of it, Alonzo, but her clowning me and asking me how's Anwar going to travel on his dollar budget. When you have the one paycheck, yes, you have to be very, very decisive and careful about what you do and how much you put here and how much you put there and how much you blow away. And so I'm going to show everyone, this is like an added bonus. This is from this book. This is from Robert's Increase Your Financial IQ book. These are the 5 financial intelligences. The first one is making more money. So it never hurts to make more. The second bullet is protecting your money. The third bullet is budgeting your money. The fourth bullet is leveraging your money. And I think that kind of relates to what we're talking about now, because you're figuring out how to use interest rates to grow your money. And then the last bullet is improving your financial information. So that's listening to this stream, that's listening to Alonzo talk. So these are the 5 financial intelligences. But I just wanted to say that, yes, if you're working off the one paycheck, you have to be very careful about how you move. So you might see people traveling and getting new handbags and on Instagram living well, but you should also ask yourself, okay, how are they doing? What's their net worth? Are they getting richer over time, or are they charging all of that? So do they have insurances in place? Those are things to think about, because peer pressure, social media pressure, familial pressure, those will prevent you from taking advantage of things like this. Some professionals, particularly in our community, the lawyer, the PhD, the doctor, they're expected to take care of everyone else, and they're getting drained. They're expected to get JJ out of jail, stuff like that. I don't want to get into all that, but you get my point. My point is that when you have the one income stream, you have to make choices about that. So if you're industrious and very forward thinking, then you might start to think about getting multiple streams, and then things become a little bit easier.
And that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If I may, again, not just with the insurance. So one thing actually that the young lady mentioned in the comment about putting together the custodial accounts for her niece and nephew. That's excellent work, by the way. Definitely congratulations to you for taking those steps. You should also know, again, like I mentioned, with the power of compounding interest in something like a life insurance policy, you can actually use that for everything that you're using that Roth for that child. And you can start it at 15 days old and use much less of your own capital to fund it. So that's called dollar leveraging. And that's one of those financial principles that Robert Kiyosaki was mentioning.
Okay. So I'm going to wrap up soon, but again, I think a key is just getting a handle on some of these vocabulary words, so that when you talk to someone like Alonzo, you know what he's talking about and you know what to ask. Because it can be like going to see the auto mechanic or the doctor. All these terms are going over your head, and you're like, wait a minute, what does that mean? I'm going to read some of these comments here. Alonzo, you can react to some of them, because I saw you and someone else were discussing inflation. Atticus now says, teach them. He says, please do not forget to factor in inflation. Very important. Always subtract the rate of inflation from the rate of earnings per year. Teach them. I'm going to go to go ahead.
He definitely, that's not a negative thing there, actually. The rate of inflation is actually something that's very important. So our economy has been in an inflation rate of about 3% for about the past 50, 60 years, right? That's why a gallon of milk is like $4 nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Again, locality, it makes a difference. I'm considering New York numbers or Northeast numbers. They're going to be a lot different than Middle America, right? However, the beauty is that compound interest is actually technically a hedge against inflation. because of your growth on top of the prior balance. Um, but what he mentioned was always subtract the rate of inflation from the rate of earnings. And that's especially important because a lot of people don't get what's called a COLA, which is a cost of living adjustment. And that actually is an annual increase that your employer should be giving to you, generally because annually the cost of living increases due to things like inflation.
Yep. So that's the federal government does that in most years. So I guess that's one of the perks of being a federal employee in the public sector. So Alonzo, I'm afraid to talk about certain things now with YouTube, but inflation has there's a lot of talk about how we're experiencing that right now. Has any of that infected the insurance sphere?
Actually, absolutely it has. So in the insurance world, there's actually something called IRC 7702.
Yep.
Basically, what it is when Trump changed some of. Excuse me one second. I'm getting a phone call. Father, I'm gonna call him back after this. What was I saying? IRC section 7702.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, in a nutshell, what it is Trump made some changes in the tax code. When those changes in the tax code happened, it lowered a lot of interest rates. When those interest rates were lowered, however, insurance companies said, hey, we're going to keep our guarantees to our clientele to keep our interest at about 4%. But we were in a 1% interest rate world. So we're getting 1% on our money and we're promising you 4%. It was pretty hard to do. It would have put the world in a huge Ponzi scheme. Well, right? So because of IRC 7702, as of July 1 of this year, all insurance companies have now increased the premium and likely lowered. What's going on, brother? And likely they've increased the premium and likely decreased your compound or your interest. For example, one of the indexed universal life policies that I sell, which is attached to the S&P 500, grows at a month. It used to grow back in 2013 at a monthly compound interest rate of 6.7%. Most recently, before July 1 of this year, it was 6.2%. As of most recently, after July 1, it has decreased to 5.3%. However, they've also increased the cost of insurance. So that means that your premiums have gone up, but it's also a benefit to the client because due to the increase in premiums, more money goes to your cash value.
Okay. I
don't know if that was confusing or.
No. If anyone has any questions in the chat, go ahead. I'm gonna speed through some of these. Let's see. Atticus says, proud of you, Doc. Thank you, Atticus. Let's see. Alonzo, you said, Atticus, very true. That's the beauty of compounding. It's a hedge against inflation. But great point to mention, Atticus. He says, hit the All-Star advisor. Shout out to you. Atticus said, the All-Star advisor inflation is the silent tax. Never forget it. It's real. Salute. Let's see. One other thing, what I was thinking about earlier, looks like Sir Anthony came through. What's going on, Sir Anthony? I would, on the street, there are all kinds of businesses and you get invited to informationals. I'm talking about out of, retirement discussions and insurance discussions. But when you think about this law, I want to caution everyone to beware of someone offering you an interest rate that's going to keep going up to infinity. Because that's, you almost never, in my experience, you almost never see something that's doing that.
Very true. And
be wary of that.
When mentioning interest rates, especially in today's economy, if anybody gives you like interest, if somebody says like a 10% interest rate, run. because we're just not in that high of an interest rate world today. We've been at a 1% increase for the past 60 years and a 3% inflation rate. So we've basically been growing at negative 2% annually. So, you know, the 80s was a spectacular time, but we've kind of, for the past almost 4 years, been on that hangover. Okay. Um, Things are just now. Here's one thing that I'm not super versed in, but I will mention that people should look at, and that is Bitcoin. Most recently, Mass Mutual, an insurance giant, purchased 100 million of Bitcoin. This was earlier in 2020, and they were a laughing stock because we were like, well, they put money with Bernie Madoff too. However, a lot of people did.
Mm-hmm.
Northwestern Mutual. Okay, cool. So Northwestern Mutual is a cool company. They're pretty big too. So the great thing is where you can recover now, and there's a lot more safe products. And there was actually a question prior, Dr. Dunbar. I don't know if I emailed it to you, but I'll send to you a document that's a BOLI report, which is bank-owned life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 3 columns. It says, I think it's first class life insurance assets, second class life insurance assets, and hybrid life insurance assets. And someone had asked me what was hybrid life insurance, and at the time I was unaware. I was thinking that was the variable life insurance, which I can explain that at another time. But variable life insurance is just an investment grade life. But hybrid life insurance is actually a combination of a life insurance policy mixed with long-term care insurance built in. So if you get to the age where you need, long-term care, if you can't take care of activities of daily living, toileting, bathing, walking, things like that, there will actually be large sums of money for you from your life insurance policy. So it's an advantage of taking care of your life insurance while you're living, because life insurance is not for death benefit check. It's life event insurance.
Okay. I'm gonna Sia ask one more question here, and then I think this might be directed at you because I don't know, and then I'm gonna shut things down. He says, "What about the VT Sachs's historical record?" Alonzo, before you answer that, my whole point with be wary of an interest rate that's going up to infinity or 20% or 10%. The point is you need to know enough to ask, how are you guys generating that? How are you doing that? Because that's a nice interest rate, but you need to know how they're doing that before you put your money in. So anyway, do you know what this is? This VTAC?
I'm not 1,000% familiar with that. That's actually my first time seeing that.
Okay.
But I'll check it out, and I'll definitely have an answer for you. Actually, that's great. That's a question I can answer in a live video.
Okay. And your channel is called
Alonzo Hall, the All-Star Advisor.
The All-Star Advisor. All right. Well, Alonzo, do you have anything else to say? Any parting shots?
Actually, yes. So there's something actually very germane to what you were saying, and one of those things was not knowing what to ask, and that's very important, especially germane to what the young lady asked earlier about working with her friend who's with Northwestern Mutual. So oftentimes what happens is when you'll sit down with a financial professional like myself, a couple of things will happen. One will start asking you specific questions, questions about your finances or what have you, and, personal questions, sometimes about your budget. And a lot of times people will say, what does this have to do with insurance? So firstly, you should know what that conversation has to do with insurance. It's identifying and protecting your lifestyle. So I can't just come to you and say, you need $100,000 worth of life insurance. Here's a 20-year term. It's $50 a month. Sign here. See you later. That's the interaction that most people get. And that's what you think of when you think of, oh, he sells life insurance. That's not how it works. Okay. There are multiple different types of policies, and there's multiple different ways to manipulate a policy. For example, I sat with a client, he paid $1,000 a month for a policy, and we were overfunding this policy. This policy we initially applied for was less than $100,000. However, again, because life insurance is based more upon your health than money, the insurance company returned to him and said, we'll give you more death benefit coverage for the same premium. So it more than doubled. So when you go to someone and say, well, how much is $100,000 worth of life insurance? It's very similar to going to a Mercedes-Benz dealership and saying, how much is a Mercedes-Benz? And they'll say, well, do you want an A class or do you want, a GLK?
Okay.
Because those are varying different prices. You
Yes.
also want to ask your advisor, what benefit does this recommendation have for me? How does this attain the goal that we initially discussed? You should always want to sit with your advisor more than once. And generally, you don't want to take, for example, if we sit down today, you don't want to take a policy immediately. You want to let me go back and actually look at things and then come back to you and say, based on what I've looked at, here's this. So that I can actually, or that financial professional can actually give you, assess what they've seen and give you an actual recommendation. And with that being said, when people challenge you, they don't challenge you, but they challenge you to challenge you. Accept the challenge. Salute.
All right. Thank you, Alonzo. Let's see. Cia says that acronym stands for Total Stock Market Index Fund. Okay. It says Vanguard. Oh, Vanguard Total Stock Market.
I guess that's a specific ETF. What's up, Chief?
Okay. Chris says, can you ask him to check with USAA and Navy Federal as well? I'm not sure what you mean by that. SimCS says expense ratio is 0.03% with a historical return of 8% annually. I wanted an expert's opinion. Okay. Well, 8%, that's a nice.
Yeah, that's a historical return. I haven't checked that myself. I don't personally watch the market daily or anything like that. That's not, my exact speed. I'm familiar with certain things. However, especially when you get into specific investment advice, fees are charged with that, number one. Number two, you're getting into legal space, and I don't feel like being sued.
Okay. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, everyone, we're going to wrap up there because I want to go outside. So, Alonzo, thank you for coming up. And again, yeah, I think it would be productive and educational for everyone to have a discussion just on insurance. So we'll coordinate that.
I appreciate it, man. Definitely. Talk to you later, Dad.
All right. Have a good one. All right, everyone. Thank you to all of you who have hung on for this. I have more financial essays to read, so I will definitely come back and read those. This one right here is in the description box below. If you read it, please leave a comment. Please give it a like. I'm going to run through a few more things here before I shut down for people watching on the playback. I see Snuggle just entered the building. Big discussion 76 science and technology. Right now, of 60 subs. 60 subs away from 1,000. Once I get to 1,000, the most valuable thing for me will be the community tab, because you can't speak about everything openly. Let's see. Extended clip says, "Take care." Gigami says, "Thank you." Chris says, thank you. Thank you, Chris, for coming through as always. And good job with what you did with your niece and nephew, setting that up. There's a woman I met at CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus annual legislative conference prior to COVID. Her name is Georgette Miller Esquire. So she's a lawyer, but she wrote a book called Being Debt Free. And it's a very thin book. I have it in my bookcase over there. But in the back, she talks about how in law school, she had a classmate who was going to graduate with no debt. So her classmate's grandmother, I think, bought Coca-Cola stock back in the day, and it appreciated so much that her school was completely paid for. And Georgette had the epiphany, like, wow, if someone had paid for my college, I would be graduating with my law degree with no debt. So that the take-home message is, it's a tremendous advantage if someone has put that money away for you early, so that by the time you're 18 and 19 and you're starting your schooling and you're launching off into starting your adult life, if that money is waiting there for you, that's a huge advantage versus someone who did not have relatives or someone who loves them set that money aside and compound that money for 20 or so years. Anyway, I just thought about that when Chris left her thank you in the comment in the chat. Anyway, my science and technology channel, if you're watching on the playback, I'm 60 away. I need 60 more. If you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. You might not understand everything I'm talking about there, but once I get the community tab, I can share articles and all kinds of things. So that's there. At the beginning of this stream, I showed you guys the page for the book project I'm working on, The Engineers, a Western New York basketball story. As you guys just saw, I came to YouTube as a writer. So I created this page recently. If you want to go see what I'm working on, it's there. The link is in the description box below. And finally, I just published another essay related to this book project on a gentleman, unfortunately, who passed away, named Kevin Roberson. Yeah, a tribute to Kevin Roberson. A tribute to Kevin Roberson, the engineer, the Hutch-Tech engineer who started it all. This is in the description box below as well. If you read this, please give it a like. Also, leave a comment. Let me know if you liked it or not. So with that, I'm going to stop and get what daylight is left. Let's see. Chris says, yes, I got the idea when my nephew asked me for Roblox. I don't know what Roblox is. I said, let me buy you some stock as well, LOL. Oh, so you got him the Roblox. You did get him the Roblox, but you got him something that's going to last a lot longer. Let's see. The factor is based upon the mortality rate of the applicant. Buy. And Kareem says, this damn Roblox, all these kids are obsessed with it. Well, it's probably, for them, it's probably like their Voltron or their Transformers. I'm going to Google it when I get done here. Anyhow, everyone, Kareem, yeah, I'll probably go over to the entertainment and media channel, spark that up tomorrow, and talk about seasons 3 and 4 of Snowfall, because I did finish binge watching those. And then we have to do Dune. I've seen the trailer. I think Zendaya is in that. I saw the thing going in her nose, and so we have to link up for that. So that should be fun. All right, everyone, enjoy the rest of your Thursday. I'm going outside to catch what sunlight is left. Please like, share, and subscribe. My Cash App and PayPal are below if you want to leave something and you're watching this on the playback. Kareem says, no Marvel. Well, you know what? Was it Shang-Chi? Is that the name of it? That's coming out. So I'll probably go see that this weekend and talk about that. That looks pretty good. We were going to see that in Arizona, but it wasn't out yet. So, Kareem, yes, I had no idea what it was. Okay. All right, everyone. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. And hopefully you learned something from this talk on the law of compounding interest. All right. Bye-bye.